After making the mistake of moving back to the East Coast, I had to find a primary care physician. Doctors aren't prevalent in rural South Jersey, so when relatives recommended a GP who practiced close by, I accepted their judgment. What a mistake. At first, this doctor satisfied the basic requirements. Simply, he was a primary care physician. If I needed attention, then I assumed he would be there for me. I don't see doctors very often. For someone who had been a heavy smoker for 40 plus years and who ate anything and as much of it as I wanted, I have been blessed with unusually good health. The first indication that Doctor wasn't up to par came when I had an unusual swelling in my cheek. The swelling worsened overnight, so I called the doctor's office promptly at 8 in the morning. A recording came on that said they were at a staff meeting, but if I would leave my name and number, they'd return my call as soon as they came back. I waited and waited. The swelling continued getting bigger and more painful, and I waited. Noon, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. No one called back. Finally, at 5 o'clock, I realized they weren't going to call, so I drove myself to the emergency room of a local hospital for treatment and pain relief. Then a more serious event occurred in February of 2007. I had sudden crushing pain in my chest, along with shortness of breath. I sat in a chair wondering if I should call 911. Although I know I should have, I didn't because the pain and shortness of breath dissipated. Also, I knew I had an appointment with Doctor in a couple of days, so I didn't worry, at least too much anyway. My appointment a few days later was at 9:15 a.m. I arrived at 9 o'clock. At 10 o'clock I was still waiting. I was off of a midnight shift and couldn't hold my eyes open. So at 10:30, half asleep, I went up to the counter and quietly asked the unusually well-fed secretary if she could reschedule me because I was falling asleep. She went ballistic right in front of everyone in the waiting room. I was dumbstruck by her hostility. She yelled for me to sit down and said that the doctor would be with me and that I should be patient. At 10:45, I finally went into the doctor's office and then waited until 11:15 when Doctor came in. I was dazed from working all night and told him I had to go and get some sleep. He wanted me to set another appointment in 3 months. This time, I specifically told the appointments person I wanted to be the first appointment of the day. So, 3 months later in May, I left my job in Wilmington, Delaware at 5:20 a.m. and drove the 45 minutes to the doctor's office. At 6:15 a.m., Doctor took another person in who also had a 6:15 appointment. I had told people at work that I would return by 7:30 because we had a Supreme Court filing that morning. So at 6:45 I was getting ready to leave when the doctor said he would see me. I told him I had no time, that I had to get back to work, and it's a 45-minute drive. He got noticeably irritated because I wasn't willing to sacrifice more of my time to accommodate his poor planning. I set another appointment for August, 3 months later. Again, the first one of the day. This time I drove from Wilmington, arriving at 5:45 a.m. and sat in the parking lot and waited for God's representative on earth to appear. When he arrived, he waved me in. I told him I had had 2 more of those severe episodes, both times at work, and I described in detail what happened both times, the pain, the weakness, and the sweating. He took my blood pressure and told me that everything is fantastic. So I asked, well, what about the symptoms I told you about? He said he didn't know what that could have been. I asked, what about my cholesterol? He said it's fine. Within 5 minutes of me walking into his office that morning, he was finished and was escorting me out while I'm still talking. As we walked, I mentioned to him that I thought I needed to see a dermatologist because of a change in the size and color of a mole. He said he would have one of his people call me with a referral. As he escorted me down the hallway, he said the words I'll never forget. "Don't forget the copay." It was then that I realized that's what he's all about. His staff triple and quadruple books his time in order to pack in as many patients as possible. No wonder he falls so far behind schedule. Proper medical care is not the priority in his office. Obviously, I got another doctor within my insurance plan. On my first visit to the new guy, I was bombarded with questions. How long since you had a physical? Have you had a flu shot this year? A pneumonia shot? Did your doctor ever schedule you for chest x-rays? When was your last colonoscopy? I left my new doctor's office with so many prescriptions, scheduled tests, and other appointments I was almost overwhelmed. Thank God I did change primary care physicians. Within 2 weeks of getting a new doctor and as a direct result of the cardiac test, we found that I had a heart blockage. Consequently, I had a stent put in. Oh, one more thing, doctor. I'm still waiting for the trained Sal at your front desk to call me with a referral for a dermatologist.